The wind howled across the barren fields of Dorn 7, stirring the red dust into little spirals that danced like spirits in the fading light. Elias Kerr stood at the edge of his small farm, hands on his hips staring at the cracked soil and drooping hydro crops. The planet had always been harsh, but this year was worse. The rain machines had broken, the soil was thin, and the few settlers nearby had given up, leaving only him and a handful of workers to keep the farm alive. He sighed and bent down to inspect a dying root, running his fingers over it as if he could will it back to life. A loud rumble interrupted his thoughts. He looked up to see a small shuttle descending from the sky, kicking up dust as it landed clumsily near the old storage barn. The hatch opened and a figure stepped out. She was tall, her hair dark and braided tightly against her head, and her eyes held a fire that made Elias instinctively step back. She moved with the confidence of someone who had survived far worse than Dorn 7's dust storms. Elias's first thought was that she was trouble. The Apache warrior was a gift from her tribe, or more precisely, a punishment. They had sent her to him, a poor farmer with little more than a scrappy plot of land and a lonely life, because she had disobeyed orders that her people considered sacred. Her name was Naya, and she was a warrior, a pilot, a survivor, and now she was his responsibility. "Are you Elias Kerr?" she asked, her voice steady and commanding. "I am," he replied cautiously. "And you must be Naya." She gave him a brief nod, scanning the barren horizon as if it were an enemy battlefield. "I am here because my people sent me. I am to live and work here until my punishment ends." Elias ran a hand through his hair. "I don't need someone to punish me. The farm barely keeps me alive." Naya's eyes narrowed slightly, but there was no anger, only a calm assessment. "Then you will learn." "We both will." The first days were hard. Naya had been trained for survival, battle, and discipline, but not for planting seeds, fixing water pumps, or repairing droids. Elias tried to teach her, showing her how to adjust the hydroponics, check the nutrient levels, and repair the small maintenance robots that kept the crops alive. She struggled at first, frustration flashing across her face, but she learned quickly, faster than Elias could have imagined. "You have strength," Elias said one evening as they worked side by side to repair a broken irrigation pump. "Not just in your arms, but in your mind. You learn fast." Naya glanced at him, a faint smile tugging at her lips. "Strength is nothing without use. You teach me, I learn. That is how humans survive." For the first time in months, Elias felt a flicker of hope. Maybe the farm could survive this year. Maybe he wasn't completely alone. But life on Dorn 7 was never simple. A few nights later, the settlement was shaken by a distant rumble. Alarm lights flickered across the horizon, and the faint hum of alien ships filled the sky. The Cthulhu, a raiding species known for their cruelty and speed, were near. The settlers panicked, scrambling to secure their homes and livestock. Elias froze, unsure what to do. Naya didn't hesitate. She climbed the ridge near the farm with her small blaster in hand, scanning the darkening sky. Her warrior instincts were sharp, her mind calculating every movement of the approaching drones. "They're scouting," she said, her voice calm but urgent. "If we are not careful, they will return with a fleet." Elias swallowed hard. "We're just farmers. What can we do against them?" Naya turned to him, her eyes blazing. "We survive. That is all humans need. We use what we have. We think faster than they do. We fight smarter. You have your fields, your machines. I will help you use them as weapons." Under her guidance, the settlers fortified their homes, set traps along the canyon paths, and readied themselves for a fight they had never expected to face. Naya moved among them like a shadow, teaching, instructing, and inspiring. The settlers began to trust her. Elias, too, started to see her as more than a warrior sent as punishment. She became a leader, a protector, and a teacher. Days passed in tense preparation. During this time, Elias and Naya worked together, not just as farmer and warrior, but as companions in a shared struggle. Elias saw her laugh quietly when a repair droid fell over, and Naya noticed the quiet strength in his hands, the way he never gave up even when the farm seemed beyond saving. One night, as the twin moons rose high above Dorn 7, they sat outside the farmhouse watching the stars. Elias broke the silence. "I used to think the stars were too far away for someone like me. I never imagined I'd be fighting beside a warrior from one of the greatest tribes in human history." Naya turned her gaze to the heavens. "The stars are never too far. Humans reach them not because they are the strongest, but because they endure. We survive. That is our power." Her words lingered in the cold night air, and Elias felt a warmth he hadn't felt in years. There was courage in her, yes, but there was also hope, and it was contagious. The next morning, the first Cthulhu drones appeared on the horizon. Small, fast, and silent, they hovered over the settlement, scanning for weaknesses. Naya was ready. "Elias, we must act now. Gather the settlers. Follow my plan." Elias felt the old fear rising, but it was tempered by the trust he had in Naya. Together, they organized the settlement into a defensive line. The drones moved closer, unaware that humans were more cunning than they anticipated, using old mining explosives, makeshift turrets, and carefully planned ambushes. Naya led the settlers in a small but decisive strike. The drones fell one by one, their mechanical bodies sparking and smoking. When the last drone finally crashed into the canyon wall, the settlers cheered, their voices carrying across the barren fields. Elias looked at Naya, awe and gratitude mixing in his expression. "You've turned a dying farm into a fortress," he said quietly. She nodded, her face serious but calm. "Humans survive by adapting, by using what we have. You have more strength than you know, Elias. Today you proved it." As night fell, the settlement was quiet again. The threat had been repelled, but the memory of the Cthulhu lingered in the minds of everyone. Elias and Naya walked through the fields, checking the crops and the damaged machinery. There was a sense of accomplishment, yes, but also the realization that survival was an ongoing challenge. "You could return to your people," Elias said finally, looking at her. "They would welcome you back." Naya shook her head. "I could, but this is where I am needed now. Here, with you, with the settlers. My punishment has become my purpose." Elias felt a lump in his throat. He had expected loneliness for the rest of his days, but instead, he found companionship, respect, and even hope. Naya had not only survived her punishment, she had transformed it into something greater, a reason to fight, a reason to live. For the first time in years, the farm did not feel barren. The soil, the crops, and even the dust seemed alive with possibility. Together, Elias and Naya had faced the unknown, and had not only survived, but had begun to thrive. The wind continued to blow across Dorn 7, carrying dust and whispers of distant stars. In the quiet of the night, Elias realized that home was no longer a place but a bond, and in that bond, forged through struggle, trust, and courage, he found a strength that no storm, no alien threat, and no exile could ever take away. And so, the farm, the settlers, and the warrior sent as punishment endured. Dorn 7 was harsh, unforgiving, and lonely, but it had become a place of hope, of courage, and of the human spirit. And as the twin moons rose over the red fields, Elias knew that this was only the beginning. The morning sun rose over Dorn 7, painting the red dust in shades of gold and crimson. The farm, once quiet and worn, now hummed with cautious activity. Settlers moved between fields, checking irrigation systems, tending crops, and reinforcing barricades. The victory against the scouting drones had brought a small relief, but everyone knew it was only a matter of time before the Cthulhu returned in larger numbers. Elias Kerr walked through the farm, inspecting the work of the settlers. Naya followed close behind, her sharp eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of movement. She had spent the night mapping the nearby canyons, planning ambush points and safe routes, while Elias had coordinated repairs and gathered supplies. Together they were turning a struggling settlement into a fortress. The settlers had begun to trust Naya completely. Her presence was no longer a punishment but a beacon of hope. Children watched her move with quiet admiration, mimicking her confident stride, while adults listened to her instructions without question. She taught them to fight, yes, but also to think, to plan, and to survive. Elias marveled at how quickly she had transformed them, and he realized that the farm was becoming more than just a place to grow food. It was becoming a community. One afternoon, while checking the perimeter, Elias noticed a faint shimmer in the sky. He raised his hand to shield his eyes and saw a formation of ships approaching from the distant horizon. The Cthulhu had returned, and this time they brought a fleet. "They're coming," Elias said, urgency rising in his voice. "We need to warn everyone." Naya's eyes narrowed, her jaw set. "We do not run. We prepare. Gather the settlers and follow my plan. Every trap, every ambush, every defensive line must be ready." The next few hours were a blur of activity. Settlers carried supplies, repaired barricades, and positioned themselves along the canyons. Naya moved among them like a general, giving orders with precision and calm authority. Elias coordinated the defenses, ensuring that every settler knew their role. The fear was there, yes, but it was tempered by determination and trust. As the first Cthulhu ships entered the atmosphere, the settlers held their breath. The aliens were fast, their metallic hulls gleaming under the twin suns. They scanned the landscape, seeking weak points, unaware that the humans they had come to harvest were ready. The battle began with a series of small skirmishes. Settlers hidden among the canyons launched projectiles, detonated hidden charges, and used the terrain to their advantage. Naya directed each move, her mind calculating, anticipating the enemy's strategy. The humans fought not with sheer power, but with cleverness, courage, and unity. Elias found himself in the thick of the fight, moving among the settlers, helping where he could, protecting those who were frightened. His hands were steady, his heart racing, but he never faltered. Naya was beside him, her presence a constant reassurance, her instincts guiding them through the chaos. Hours passed, and the Cthulhu realized that this was not a simple settlement to raid. The humans were organized, intelligent, and fearless. Naya led a daring maneuver, luring a group of enemy ships into a narrow canyon where hidden explosives had been set. The charges detonated, sending shockwaves through the canyon and crippling the enemy vessels. The settlers cheered, but there was no time to celebrate. More ships were coming. As the sun began to set, the final wave of Cthulhu ships approached. They were larger, armed with heavy weapons, and clearly meant to overwhelm the defenders. Elias and Naya exchanged a glance. They both knew that the outcome of this battle would determine the fate of the farm, the settlers, and perhaps even Dorn 7 itself. Naya's mind raced. "We must hit their command ship," she said. "If we destroy it, the rest will retreat. Elias, I need you to lead the settlers in the canyon defenses. I will take the fight to them." Elias nodded, his respect for her growing. "Be careful." "I always am," she replied, though there was a flicker of concern in her eyes. Naya commandeered a captured alien walker, a massive machine designed for battle, and advanced toward the command ship. She moved with precision, avoiding enemy fire and using the terrain for cover. The settlers watched in awe as she maneuvered the walker, her courage and skill inspiring them to hold their ground. Elias led the settlers in a coordinated defense, using every trap, turret, and strategy they had prepared. The humans fought with ingenuity and determination, turning the canyons into a deadly maze for the Cthulhu. Every strike, every movement was calculated, and the aliens began to realize that their prey was far from helpless. As Naya closed in on the command ship, she could see the enemy commanders through the viewing ports. They were confident, arrogant, expecting to intimidate humans with their advanced technology. Naya smiled faintly. They had underestimated her species once, and now they would learn their mistake. With a precise strike, she breached the ship's hull and planted charges near the reactor. She activated them and leapt from the walker just before the explosion rocked the canyon. A blinding light filled the sky, and the command ship was obliterated in a spectacular display. The remaining Cthulhu ships faltered, confused and leaderless. Many turned to flee, while others crashed into the canyon walls, unable to navigate the complex terrain. The battle was over. The settlers emerged from their hiding places, cheering, exhausted but victorious. Elias ran to Naya, who was dust-covered and weary but unharmed. He threw his arms around her, relief and gratitude washing over him. "You did it," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "We did it." Naya nodded, a small smile on her lips. "We all did it. Humans survive because we fight together, because we endure." In the days that followed, the settlers repaired their homes, tended their crops, and celebrated their victory. Dorn 7 was harsh and unforgiving, but it had become a place of hope, courage, and resilience. The farm that Elias had once feared would never survive was now a symbol of what humans could achieve when they worked together and trusted each other. Word reached the Apache Confederation. Naya's punishment had been severe, but her actions had shown the strength and spirit of humanity. They offered her reinstatement, a return to her people and her duties among the stars. But Naya shook her head. "This is where I belong," she said. "Here with these people. Here with Elias." The settlers welcomed her as one of their own, and the farm flourished like never before. Children played among the hydrocrops. Settlers laughed and worked side by side, and the red dust of Dorn 7 seemed less harsh under the twin suns. Elias and Naya continued to work together, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. The farm was more than a place to grow food. It was a home, a community, and a testament to the human spirit. They faced each day with courage, ingenuity, and a stubborn determination to survive and thrive no matter the odds. Months later, a small alien scouting vessel appeared on the horizon. The settlers watched warily, but Naya and Elias were calm. They had prepared for this moment and they were ready. When the aliens landed, they were met not by helpless farmers, but by a united and formidable community, inspired and led by a warrior who had turned her punishment into purpose. The aliens scanned the settlement, sensing the strength and unity of the humans. They marked Dorn 7 as a place to avoid, a planet where humans fought not just with weapons but with courage, intelligence, and unwavering spirit. The Cthulhu had underestimated humanity once again, and they would not make the same mistake. Elias looked at Naya as they walked through the fields, the settlers busy around them. "You could have gone back to your people," he said softly, "but you stayed." "I stayed because this is where I am needed," she replied. "Because this is where I belong." The wind blew gently across the red fields, carrying the dust and the promise of life. Dorn 7 was no longer just a farm. It was a home built from courage, resilience, and the unyielding spirit of humanity. Elias and Naya stood together on the ridge, looking at the settlement below. The crops swayed gently in the breeze. The settlers moved with purpose, and the twin moons rose high above, casting their silver light across the land. In that moment, Elias knew that no matter what dangers came from the stars, no matter what challenges awaited humanity, they would endure, they would fight, they would survive, and they would thrive. The Apache warrior had been sent as punishment, but she had become so much more. She had become a leader, a protector, and a home. And in doing so, she had shown the settlers of Dorn 7 and Elias Kerr that the true strength of humanity was not in technology, weapons, or ships, but in courage, hope, and the bonds they forged with one another. Dorn 7 had survived. Humanity had prevailed, and the red dust of the barren farm had been transformed into a place of life, laughter, and unbreakable spirit. The stars shone above, and beneath them, humans endured.